Welcome to the Qi Body and Spirit, the Way of Biohacking podcast. This is Dr. Tai, and this is...
Hi, I'm Linda, Nutritionist Yogini. What's up? What's up?
Hello, everyone. Employee of Tay's, Nikki here.
So today's topic is about the spine, and it's springtime, so we're going to talk about the liver and back bends. We have an upcoming seminar at Qi Body and Spirit, and Linda, just start us off today.
Yes, I want to bring us back to a couple episodes ago where we talked about the chakra system and how that's associated with the spine.
Yeah.
So whenever I teach yoga, I don't necessarily reference the spine itself, but I talk about how the different energetic points aligned along the spine, as well as back bends, which has a lot to do with spinal decompression, which is something that we practice in every yoga practice that we do together.
Yeah. I got to say, Linda, today I was very blown away by the back bends that we were practicing for the upcoming seminar. Because I got to say, I was very angry while coming in. I had a lot of venting that I did as soon as I came in about like the stuff going on in my office and stuff like that. And I got to say, like after doing that back bend, like I felt like really peaceful and like calm, and I couldn't believe like this stuff actually works.
Yeah, yoga is super practical and pragmatic.
Yeah.
And my teacher always says that back bends stretch the liver. And when you stretch the liver, it opens up your vision, because the liver is associated with the eyes. The eyes are the opening to the liver.
Yeah.
And when you stretch your vision, you're able to see your potential. And that's what back bends do. If you think about it, when people are hunched over with poor posture, they're squishing their liver.
Right.
So when you're able to open your chest, open your heart, then you allow yourself to open yourself up to any possibility.
Yeah. I mean, at times like this, I just get blown away by how like practical, some of the things we do actually works. And I knew that back bends and liver were associated, but I guess the universe had its way of, getting me so angry and experiencing today's class. So like, if you want to like biohack your anger and you're like angry for whatever reason, learning how to do these back bends will just, move all that negative energy, and you're able to think clearly. And I have to say, oh my God, I thought I needed therapy for for anger management. And maybe I was thinking about contacting my, life coach Kiki. So if you're listening, we're talking about you, Kiki. And what is that? Yeah, she helped me process a lot of things and clear out and just reorganize my life. And I thought and I did get in touch with her today. It's hey, I need to work with you again. But yeah, I think learning how to do these back bends, and if you're in a state of anger, definitely it works right away, like medication. Within how long do we do that? 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
Yeah, so we started off in a restorative back bend, probably 5-10 minutes, and then we did some lunges to open the psoas. And then we ended with another back bend and a downward facing dog. So the entire practice was only about half an hour.
Yeah. All right, Nikki, I know you got some great research on spinal decompression. I was listening to. I can't wait to hear all about it, man. And we got to talk about your TikTok thing. That was awesome.
I'm trying, but yeah, I did a little bit of research on stuff, and one of the biggest things that I was surprised on was how you sleep greatly affects your compression in your spine. And from what it looks like, sleeping on your back or your stomach, if you think about it, your stomach, you're kind of inverted, your stomach's kind of getting pushed in, and your back's kind of higher usually because you're on a pillow. And that can cause a lot of back pain. And so what it looks like is the most optimal position to sleep in to support your back is actually your side.
So we did a spinal decompression video in the back, but it was too fast paced, and your friends wanted some back bend stuff. So we got to make a restorative one, you said, right?
Right. So I have a lot of people messaging me about, hey, I have a lot of back pain. And then the original YouTube video we made, it's very active. It's a lot of moving through back bends, cat cows, camel pose. But I realized for someone that's really struggling, have a lot of back pain and not a lot of yoga experience, these moves might be too advanced.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the slower movements, it just helps more people, the simpler they are. If you're more fit, then you might be like, this is kind of boring, but to make it like more available for people, I think focusing on the easy things is always helpful for the general public.
I personally much prefer slower yoga and slower bends and movements like that. I was in a few classes where they were very fast paced, and I didn't enjoy it nearly as much as I did the slow flow.
Yeah, I totally relate with that. When I go to Vinyasa classes, I will get into a pose a teacher describes, and then I could barely get my grounding, my foundation, my balance, and we're already transitioning to the next one. So I don't really have enough time to play with my breath within the pose, which I really find that's where the joy comes in practicing yoga for me.
Just like the cardio / power yoga, like Ashtanga, right? Right. They move through the postures really, really fast. Yeah, I enjoy both sometimes, but I definitely like to feel the stretch and the breath coordinated together. So I think I'm on that camp too. All right. So there's multiple ways of doing spinal decompression. You could do it upside down in an area yoga, which is obvious, but not everyone has it, right?
Yeah.
There's also yoga blocks, right? And the one I teach, you don't need anything. You just lay down on the floor and you put your palms of your feet together. Is that how to say it? Right? Palms of your feet together, and then you open up your hips and you place your thumb on top of the hip and you push down. And I show these movements in my Unify class when we do, and all you need is a yoga block. And sometimes you don't even need a yoga block. One of the things that does happen during a spinal decompression is that if you are able to take a deep breath in to your maximum capacity before you do it and observe 3 factors. 1, what is the full capacity of your breath? So 2 is you listen to how much effort it takes to get to your full breath. And 3, how the air is going in and out of your body. And if you are engaged in a good spinal decompression, then you should be able to breathe better so that you're doing things the right way. And you could do it without any equipment, but I do recommend a yoga block on the bare minimum. And Nikki, you were saying about like
dead hangs.
Dead hangs, right?
Yeah, they've been shown to be super good for decompressing the spine. Things like herniated discs, where parts of your cartilage in between your discs are getting pinched and the nerves being pinched, because nerves come out of the spine on the sides. So when you have a herniated disc, it's pinching that nerve. So to kind of unpinch, dead hangs are really good to kind of decompress the spine. It's kind of similar to those workout equipments where you'll hang upside down, but it's a lot more comfortable and easier to just hold onto a bar and just let your feet hang and not do any movement and just kind of relax. I've seen stuff on doing it for a total of 5 minutes, not 5 minutes on one hang, but 30 seconds, get off, 30 more seconds throughout the day. It's been shown to be really beneficial.
Cool.
Yeah, something about a dead hang is making sure that you're relaxing like the shoulder and neck area. I know I definitely myself, if I do that, sometimes I tense in that area. So really making sure that even though you're hanging, you really make sure that you're relaxing those areas so you relax the upper parts of your spine as well.
I guess in future episodes we got to do like a video the way we've been doing it, just explain, so it's like our podcasters kind of relate to the yoga things that we do. So we got to schedule that. Maybe when he's here we'll do that together. Yeah. All right,
it's fine by me.
One thing I did learn about the spine that I did not learn when I was in school was about the meninges. The meninges are like the dura mater, like this fibrous tissue inside the spine, and they grow these fibrous tissue all around in a spiral pattern. And I learned this thing called advanced biostructural correction, and they do this thing called the meningeal releases. And if memory serves me right, there was a medical doctor like in the 1920s, and his job was to cut dead bodies and look into the spine, see how it, and he wrote down notes. And a separate doctor who they never met was in Japan, and he had a similar job. And when they compared the notes, they realized that the spinal cord does not make a perfect fit into the spinal canal. And it had like a squiggly pattern because, you know, there's all this like nerves coming out. And in order to stabilize those, the spine into a fixed position, the meninges from the spine would grow the fibrous tissue to anchor it. And there was a guy named Dr. Jesse Jukowitz from like the D guy for advanced biostructural corrections. He figured out a non-chiropractic way to release the meninges. And when you get that done, like your breathing just like gets so much better. And I modify those, you know, techniques to make it into a stretch because I didn't like, you know, go full blast and like, you know, scare people and stuff like that. So I did it like really slow and it still gets the job done. But to get the real full meninges, like ABC, that's the way Dr. Jesse, that's the way to like really, really do it. And I really always appreciated that work. I went to like several seminars, and it's a different approach because most chiropractors that I know, they do more joint mobilization, especially like C1, C2, and those are great. But to treat the whole spine, a lot of people don't address the meninges, and I always really appreciated that about Dr. Jesse Jukowicz's work, and because of that theory, I learned that if the spine, to make things like really simple, is that the spine tends to move forward as we age, so we get that hunch and flat back and rounded shoulders and forward head posture, and all the bad posture comes wrapped into one. And what he was saying is that by pushing your spine back where they belong, right, that allows you to breathe better. And so when I do spinal decompression in the aerial, I like position my body instead of just to hang, just move myself a little bit more forward, so that's my spine is being pushed back. And I always find that like I'm able to breathe better during those things. And the back bend, oh my god, like because you're pushing your spine back, like you're able to breathe so much better even after, and I found that like very like stress relieving.
Yeah, something about working with back bends. My teacher always says that when people are hunched forward, like, yes, it comes with age, but also it comes with carrying all your memories, like being burdened by your past. So a lot of people, they're like, when you see people, like they're really sad, really depressed, really caught up in the past, you see the shoulders coming over. So being able, part of it is being able to open again. It could be a physical practice. You could use the physical to change the psychological, or use the psychological to affect the physical. They work in tandem. But also in practicing the back bends, it's not just so much the upper back, because the spine, remember, starts all the way at the base. So it's being able to open yourself all the way from the front body. You're opening your front body to make more room for your back to lengthen.
What was that?
One thing that I've seen, especially in the gym, is when people are hunched over like that, is they'll overwork on their chest and neglect their back. So your chest muscles will kind of pull your shoulders in like this. Some UFC fighters, you could see that in them because they're not working on their back as much; they're just working on their chest. But if you're working on your back, you can't neglect your chest, or it'll really ruin your posture. I mean, other way around. If you're working on your chest, you can't neglect your back.
I met this great personal trainer from Equinox. I forget his name. I believe his name was Andre. And he has a philosophy of working your back twice as much as the front of the body. And I thought that was really cool. And not that he's wrong. I asked Courtney the same question. And she said it was 3-to-2 ratio.
Courtney, the physical therapist.
Yeah, Courtney, the physical therapist / yogini. Which her and I did the aerial yoga last night.
Yeah, an up-and-coming aerial teacher.
Up-and-coming aerial teacher. # ultra spiritual Courtney.
So go back to the 3-to-2 ratio.
Yeah. So she says that for every bench presses I do, I should be doing 3 back pulls and stuff like that. But generally, we should be working out the back more than the front of the body, right? And I think that guy, Athlean X, he's a famous YouTuber. I watched a lot of his videos on like posture. I have to say, like, he's pretty good, like, because he does, like, one of the important exercises that he emphasizes on is the pulls, right? And he's like, you should be doing this every single day. And I don't remember the exact words he used, but he emphasizes on these things. And if you look at him, the guy's in, one, great shape. Two, he's got great posture. And his other friend that he has on the show, like, he had really bad posture when he started out in that YouTube, and then later on, and I think that's why a lot of people gravitate towards that, because he has a lot of, like, great postural exercises. Yeah.
I want to bring this back to earlier in the conversation. We started off talking about anger and the liver. So, Tai, can you explain a little on how the spine's connected to the liver and anger?
Okay. So, the liver, the nerves, come out at T9, 10, and 11, if memory serves me correctly. Because the inferior border of the scapula is T7, and below that is T8, T9, T10, and it overlaps with other nerves like 2/3 of the pancreas, and those nerves come out of there. And energetically speaking, the back shoe points for the liver runs on T8 in acupuncture theory, which is very, very, coincidental, like how the ancient people knew that the energy of the liver happens to run on that channel, on the bladder channel. And like when I did the back bend today and like opened that area, like the ribs opening, like liver 13, right, opened up because you're like stretching the ribs, right, and then you're taking these giant deep breaths, and yeah, that whole area started opening up energetically, and then the anger that I was feeling was just like dissipating by the second, just like draining out of my body. And normally I would experience things like that through acupuncture, but I would have never thought that, draining emotions through yoga posture was possible until like pretty much today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was like revelation, and like, my head was spinning in good ways, and I was like, whoa, this is amazing. Next time I get angry, I'm going to get into this like posture. Yeah.
And also last week we specifically talked about during the 5 phases how the emotion anger is associated with the liver.
Yeah. So recapping last week, the 5 phases consist of water, that makes the wood grow, and the wood creating this earth or ashes, and earth and ashes, over a long period of time becomes metal, or aka crystals, like a giant mountain. And in the mountains, on top of the mountains, the crystals, they always tend to melt, just like the iron ore melts into lava, and this repeats itself. And these phases, transitioning, like the laws of thermodynamics, second law of laws of thermodynamics, energy is never created nor destroyed. They're always transforming from one form to another. And the wood is associated with the liver, and the ancient people believed that the liver, if you cut it, it regenerates just like the energy. So it had that regenerative property like plants did. So that's why they put it on the wood phase. And the yang organ to it was the gallbladder, because it was green. And for some reason they associated that the emotions of being charged to like explode was associated with the liver. And the way my teacher described it is that it's also very sexual, because it builds up until there's a release, right? And same thing with anger. And a lot of people associate stress, or aka in Chinese medical theory, liver qi stagnation, that turns into, liver yang rising or explosion of anger, right? But at the same time, the positive aspect from the classical theory of Eastern medical theory is that the positive aspect of anger is that there's uprush. Uprush is like, this town is dangerous because it needs a stop sign. I'm going to, write to the town and change the law, and I'll see to it to make something right. So like, it's kind of like anger, but it is channeled in a very positive way. And you see things like in a lot of revolutionary people like Martin Luther King's, or people in history who sought injustice and wanted to change it. And that's what uprush energy is. And liver is strongly associated with the springtime. And from what I understand, the way the circadian / seasons work is that when the high noon hits after March 21st, the vernal equinox, when it hits the eyes, which is associated with the liver in Eastern medicine, it wakes up the liver, telling the liver, okay, springtime is coming. Now you're going to have all these like flowers and vegetables to eat. So you guys got to produce different enzymes and stuff like that. And a lot of studies show that even without dietary changes, just by this change of season, through the stool samples, they're able to see that the microbiome changes naturally for people, even though they're not eating according to the seasons. Yeah. So I always found that very, very...
absolutely. There's plenty of signs on the microbiome changing with the seasons, and even personally, through like my own experimentation, I've noticed that I digest certain foods best in certain seasons. Like in the summer, I definitely digest fruits better than I do in the winter. That's just my personal experimentation, but there's plenty of literature that shows our enzymes and our microbiome change with the seasons, and it's something that most people neglect.
Nice. I want to talk a little bit about how to maintain spinal mobility as you age. And because a lot of people, they're like, oh, I have back pain, and then they don't want to lift things.
Yeah.
So what are some practical ways that people can practice maintaining mobility so that they could use their spines for the rest of their lives?
Okay. Number one, lifting heavy objects should not be using your back. So if you're in a hunch position and you grab something and you're using your back, that's like a big no-no. You should be coming to a squatting position and place the heavy object close to your center of mass, very close to your body, and using your legs to lift. And a lot of the back injuries occur because people are not lifting correctly. So there's a correct way to lift heavy objects versus doing it the wrong way, and the wrong way can cause a lot of injuries. That's number one. Number two is, I beat this dead horse. You got to lean back as much as you can. Every single day, because everybody is, on their smart devices, hunched forward. They're on their computers, hunched forward. But when do they really lean back and do this?
And even when people are sitting on a couch, they think they're leaning back, but really they're hunching.
They're hunching forward, right? And the spine is being pushed forward. So the general direction that people want to have is pushing your spine backwards. There was a great book I read by James Nestor. He's an investigative journalist called Breath. He looked at all the breath work from deep sea divers and something that was like close to the Wim Hof method, and there's all these breath related stuff. And amongst the many, there was a chapter dedicated for the Stroth method. It was a German woman, and she didn't have a medical degree, and she taught breath work through holding these bars, like I don't know what to call it. They have it in yoga studios and physical therapy offices where they have these wooden bars behind them.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I don't know what it's called either. It looks like a ladder.
Yeah, it looks like a ladder. And people are holding these positions, and what they're doing is they're breathing and they're expanding the ribs. And a lot of before and after photos showed that this procedure called the Stroth method would fix a lot of scoliosis, like tremendously. And it got to the point where in Germany, according to the book, if I remember this correctly, so many people complained about this woman practicing medicine without a license, and eventually the German government adopted this protocol, and people started sharing this, they were making referrals to this woman, and people from all around the world came to learn Stroth method. I didn't learn the Stroth method. I read the book. It was fascinating, and I got into it because this is a really funny story. This guy named Cary Tagawa, he's an actor. He's a Japanese American, and he played this character called Shang Tsung from this video game called Mortal Kombat, the first movie that came out, right? And he is famous in that movie where he steals the soul, right, of this dude, and he goes, "Your soul is now mine," right? And I met this actor, Cary Tagawa, at a Pure Food and Wines through a guy named Manny Maya, right? And he was trying to like fund this little operation between my friend Eric and Peter. And so this actor is sitting there, and I'm thinking, this guy's Shang Tsung, you know. And he's Japanese, and you know, we're talking about all these things, and he was a famous martial artist, and he was in a movie called Rapid Fire with Brandon Lee, before, you know, he made the movie Crow. And he was talking about martial arts, and then he's like, eventually became to all about healing, and he's like the healer in Hollywood. And so I'm like, where did you learn this stuff? So he's like, I kind of created it, right? And I'm like, okay. And then he's like, would you like to experience it? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And he put this like weird feet motions and spinal weird position, and using the breath pressure to push the spine back. And when I got up, it felt like today. Like it was one might say I had a spiritual experience, like night and day difference. And I didn't know the Stroth method at this point. Like I was still like, you know, still learning a lot of stuff and trying to figure out what, you know, in healthcare. But later on, when I heard Stroth method, I'm like, oh, I know a Japanese version of this, right? So I never got to learn the Stroth method, but we did it a couple of times, I think, right? The putting your feet, and that really increases your breathing capacity by a lot. Yeah. So I think maybe we'll do some of that at the back bend. Yeah. And can you tell us more about the yoga chair?
Yeah. So I've been experimenting a lot with using a chair as a prop in yoga, which I think makes it a lot more accessible for people at home, people that haven't practiced yoga before. And a lot of it is using the chair as a support and an extra point of contact, so that you can achieve poses that you might not have the muscular structure for. So like, for example, today we did lunges, but we used the chair to support our pelvic floor, so that we didn't have to hold the lunge to able to explore twists and explore openings. And that way we could still find that opening of the chest without having to focus so much on the foundation, because the foundation is already there with you with the support of the chair.
Like when I first started doing yoga, Qi Gong and stuff like that, I really didn't like props, because I thought it was like, okay, you know, I don't need this props, you know, I'm kind of fit and all that stuff like that. But after my injury, when I hurt my back, I found props to be like the most amazing things ever. And one of the things that I felt today doing yoga in the chair is that I believe I was doing a deep lunge with my left leg in the back, and I was using my right hand next to my right heel, and I was raising my left hand in that opening stance.
Right.
If the chair wasn't there, I would have fell.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that's a posture I could do on my own, right, without the assistance of a chair. And I got to really explore that, you know, posture, thanks to the chair and thanks to you. Yeah. So I found that props are really amazing in that sense, and it really helps people get introduced to difficult postures and with less effort and less experience. Yeah.
Definitely. And like maintaining a yoga practice or any type of exercise practice is so important to maintain spinal mobility, because a lot of people don't know how to lift things properly. And that is a very common way to sustain an injury. So before, what you're mentioning, like practicing squats, practicing even like guided deadlifts, making sure that you have someone look over your form and that you're using proper form whenever you're handling something that, okay, your ego tells you could do it, but your body physically hasn't been in that type of situation or in that type of practice. It's so important to maintain a practice and to keep moving. Otherwise you lose musculature, even though you might have the memory, but making sure that you are maintaining a practice.
Another thing, we kind of brushed over it earlier on posture and hunching over.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people sit down way too much I think when I go to the library, they have like desks that you can stand up at, and I always use those. I try to stand up as much as possible, and I think a lot of people that work these like desk jobs and things along those lines, they're just sitting down for way too long, and it's really having a big impact on their spinal health and their posture negatively.
Yeah, like if you look at a lot of the ergonomics, and ergonomics is the way you position your body with your smart devices and stuff like that, and your screen should be ideally like right below your eyebrow, the top of the screen. So this way you're not like looking down. So you're kind of like looking straight forward. And like if you're using your phone, most people place their phones in there like below their what is that?
Chest line,
right? And they look down when they should be, you know, placing the phone like more high up, but that's really difficult to achieve, right? And there are hacks where you like place your your elbow in your midline and then look at your phone. This way kind of like holds it there, right? And I catch myself doing this all the time as well. I do want to talk about this martial artist named DKU, because I went to his seminar when he came down to New York, and my sole purpose of going to that seminar was to lift a chair. So he has this like incredible video where he's lifting this chair and no one in the audience is able to lift it, right? When I first saw the YouTube video, I'm like, okay, I got Qi. I could lift a chair. And it turns out I couldn't lift a chair. And so I went to the seminar and he taught it, and he talks about this like isometric contractions that you do for your lower back, and if you stand in Zhanzhang, right, and if you practice that, you're able to develop these isometric contractions along the spine. And the best way I can say it is that you can go to your chiropractor, massage therapist, and stuff like that. The only person that can actually fix this for you are physical therapists, because they're the ones who are really trained to give you exercises for the lower back, right? And a lot of people don't know these simple exercises. And for the X amount of years I've been in medical school and in clinical practice, everyone talks about joint mobilization, the importance of it, and that's why people get, a lot of chiropractic adjustments and stuff like that. And in the physical therapy world, I never heard of holding isometric contractions. And the only time that people would do them is when they're doing planks. The only time I held an isometric contraction for the lower back was during planks. And that was when I went to a TRX seminar, the suspension whatever thing, and the guy told me to squeeze my core, squeeze my sides, and squeeze my back, and squeeze my lower abdomen and my glutes to hold the plank. And I never knew that the planks would involve so many muscle groups. And the way he was making us hold the planks was, squeeze the abs, let go of the abs, and then squeeze the lower back, and then let go of everything and squeeze the glutes. And I think this was the method the woman held the longest plank World Guinness Book World Record. I'm guessing. I don't know if this is the way she actually did it.
Switching muscle groups.
Yeah, switching muscle groups, because by rotating different muscle groups, you're able to hold that position for much longer. Yeah.
I want to go back to when you're talking about the standing in Zanzhuang, which is both feet are planted into the ground, your arms are in front of you. It's very similar to mountain pose in yoga, where you have to find the balance between both feet. And this is something I want to tie back to what Nikki was saying about using a standing desk, because I work in wellness and I have a lot of clients that are like, I switched over to a standing desk, and I see how they're standing. They're standing in heart history, you call it contrapposto, where you're just leaning on one hip.
Yeah.
And you're not doing yourself any favors by leaning on one hip, even if you're standing, So really trying to find the balance between both feet. Find your connection between the earth and your feet, and feeling that connection and feeling the energy rise up the spine. So that way you are connected to the earth is supporting you, and you're rising. And you're not just leaning on one hip. because you're doing a lot of harm just by putting all your weight on one side of your body.
Yeah, I see myself doing that at the supermarket line all the time.
Yep. Same. I always catch myself and like, shift back to the middle.
Nikki, I gotta ask you, how's the yoga classes in your school?
They're very, very fast paced.
Okay.
And it's not something that I talked about this earlier. I don't prefer them to be so fast paced. I like when you're sitting in a position and you can really breathe and kind of think about, where my body is, feeling this, and you can get a good sense of stability. But when you're cycling through positions so quickly, you don't find that grounded stability, and you don't get to really breathe in the position. So I definitely don't prefer, even though they say slow flow, like going into them, but they're very fast paced. I don't know if what we do is just really, really slow flow.
Yes.
But it said it was so flow, but it wasn't very slow. I mean, we were switching positions. We were in a position for no longer than 5 seconds, I would say.
Was it like maybe a Vinyasa class, or was it an Ashtanga class?
I have no idea. But it was fast, and I didn't really enjoy it nearly as much as when I do yoga with you guys. It's a lot more fun.
Is there other yoga classes in your school?
There are, but I think that they're even faster.
Really?
I think I went to the slowest one, and I still thought it was really quick. It was called the slow flow.
The slow flow. Okay.
But it wasn't slow at all.
Tell me a little bit.
Maybe it was slow. Maybe I'm just so used to like really slow what we do.
Yeah, we do more of a hatha practice, which really is like more stationary as opposed to like a flow style.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Like being in a position for like a minute or even longer. Like I liked that.
What was that? Olga, when she demonstrated the yoga, she said that was a Vinyasa flow, right?
Yeah.
And I found that to be on the fast paced, right? Which I really enjoyed, right? And I took a Vinyasa class at Equinox a long time ago. But that Vinyasa class was, was marketed as Vinyasa class, but it was also very slow. So, like, I have a hard time understanding, like, because, like, one Vinyasa class was really fast, one Vinyasa class was very slow. So, like, what identifies as a Vinyasa class?
I really think it depends on the teacher and the teacher's personal style. How I translate Vinyasa is connecting movement with the breath. So it really it's determined by how the teacher interprets that statement.
Okay. Like in the Qi Gong practice that I did, all of it was done, well, different teachers interpret this different ways, and it was connecting the breath and the postures. And one teacher taught it to me as 10 seconds in, 10 seconds out, and the inhale and the exhale should be about, same, right? One teacher told me to breathe out longer than breathing in because it builds muscles of respiration. I thought that was a, much better way to go about doing things. And like Qigong is a lot of static postures, and this guy named Louis Pontillo, who was my Qigong teacher at the school, at the acupuncture school I went to, and the way he taught it was like really solid. Like your muscles became, like, he had us like hold these postures for like 9 breaths each, which was like the longest out of everyone. And he's the guy who made us do Zhanzhong, like really, really long. Like that one set. Right? He made it into like 45-minute classes, and he would teach that one thing, and I would walk out of there like feeling great. And however, Qigong is not like, very dynamic, and I think that's like the big two contrast is similar principles at the core, but the moves are very, very different. And I think, that's why I like Unify, yeah, Qigong and yoga.
And this is a little off topic, but you guys recently did a cold plunge.
No, that was canceled due to the snowstorm. So we have rescheduled for the 26th. So that's up and coming. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I was gonna ask how it went, but I've been doing a cold plunge every Sunday. The water here is around 50 degrees.
Okay.
So it's pretty cold. And this past Sunday, me, my roommate, and a few friends, we stayed in for 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
gosh.
That was our longest time, 10 minutes in 50 degrees. And it was tough. It was tough. It was harder than the ice bath, for sure.
Did you get the adrenaline rush next day? That feeling?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
did?
I had
Okay.
it for that whole day. I had like the shakes after for like
Nice.
45 minutes.
Nice.
And then they went away, and then I was like wired. I was ready to go, but it was tough. It was a long 10 minutes. I couldn't really feel my whole body.
Did you practice breath work before going into the ocean?
I did breath work before and in the water. I was like really, really focusing on my breath, because right when you go in, you kind of lose your breath.
Yeah.
You got to catch it. But what made it, I think, harder than the ice bath is the waves, because the waves were pretty big. So the water level is constantly changing on your body. So it'll go below your chest, you'll catch your breath, and then it'll go back above, and you'll lose your breath again, and then you'll catch it. And it was tough. It was a tough 10 minutes, but it was a lot of fun.
One thing, the breath really helps with the spine is that, I keep beating this dead horse. When you take a deep breath into your maximum capacity, and you hold it, it puts your spine in like a better position than when you're collapsed, right? So constantly, when you're in that ergonomic state, when you're standing and then you're doing that slow breathing, that maintains your posture to be better. So I think like spine health, right, is directly tied to breath work, right? And it goes back to like spine, breath, spine, breath, spine, breath. And spine and breath is emotional health as well, right? The more you're able to open it up. So like spine, since we're in this exercise, topic, like, yeah, Nikki brings up a very important practice that the more you engage in breath work, whether you're doing the Wim Hof or yoga or whatever, chances are you will have better posture for your spine and better postural hygiene. Yeah.
What warm-up exercises did you do before and after your cold plunge?
Well, I did in my car. I did 3 sessions of Wim Hof, like the 30 breaths, hold, exhale, hold, and then inhale, hold, or no, yeah, inhale, hold. I did that 3 times, and then you get that kind of rush, and then in the water, I just like deeply hyperventilated, not fast. It was just kind of really deep, long, and strong breaths through my nose to produce as much nitric oxide.
Did you notice your posture when were you standing in the water?
Yeah, we were, but we kind of started getting pulled out a little bit. So at one point, I was like, oh, wait, can you guys stand? And they were like, no. And then we looked back, and we were like really far from shore. We didn't even realize we were getting pulled out, but for most of the time, we were standing.
So how many of your buddies were doing this?
I want to say it was 10 people.
Wow.
Maybe a little more. We started it with 5 people like a month ago every Sunday.
Yeah.
And that was just run in, run out. Second time, it was 2 minutes. Third time, it was 5 minutes. And this time, we just did 10. And every time, the group got a little bigger.
Nice. You're starting a whole tribe out there.
Yeah, we're doing a little club. It's only word of mouth. We're not starting it as a formal club. It's exclusive.
You should start a biohacking club in school.
Only by word of mouth.
You should start a biohacking club in school.
I've thought about it.
Get some funding.
Yeah.
So tell me about this TikTok before we end.
Oh, well, I came across that study. I don't know where I saw it, but it mentioned soy consumption. It had 2 groups of men. There was a control group and another group that ate really high levels of soy, and it took their sperm counts, and the men who ate large amounts of soy had much lower sperm counts. So I thought that's important because, you see soy, not that, anyone can make their own dietary choices, of course, but you see soy really promoted as a health food.
Yeah.
And, some people, they can thrive and do great when eating soy. But personally, based off of things like that, I avoid soy. I care about my sperm count. But you know, it's something that's overlooked, and I don't know as far as how it affects women.
Yeah.
But as for men, it definitely affects fertility.
In TikTok, what is the name of the TikTok channel for, or the TikTok account, I should say, for the thing that you started?
That was just the Qi Body Spirit.
Yeah, at Qi Body and Spirit.
Qi Body and Spirit. Okay.
Find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Facebook.
And Spotify, was it?
Spotify is Way of Biohacking.
The Way of Biohacking, all right. Oh, okay, cool. Things are coming around. All right, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Please hit that like button. It really helps the algorithm. And if you can share this things with your friends, and hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. And we are getting ready for a whole neurofeedback and stretching topics for this year. A lot of preparations will be going into it, and I can't wait to share this with you on the next biohacking tips at the Way of Biohacking podcast. All right, thank you. Take care. Bye bye.